The NFL draft, we are fired up right into our Cannonball League. We're not wasting any time. We've already started just a little while ago. We are into pick three. We'll do a live recap of rounds 4 through 7 of the NFL draft as well while we're making these picks here tonight. And hopefully, let's bring up the board for you folks to find folks out there. How's everybody doing tonight? Glad to have you in the birdhouse. And whoa, what a draft it was. Man, I was just happy to see all the running backs fly off the board early today and often. It made it exciting. What did we have? 5 out of the first 15 picks in round 4 were running backs. We started off with Chimmery DK from right here in Waukesha North, proud, the North Stars, the Florida Gators. He is a wide receiver though. He went to the Tennessee Titans. He went to the Gators via Wisconsin and played for a year down there. Didn't do a whole lot stats wise, but he blew up at the combine, and that moved DK's stock up, and he was nabbed by the Titans. They did grab a couple of receivers today, and then they also just signed Xavier Restrepo, Cam Ward's teammate at Miami, as an undrafted free agent. Quickly, to run down a few fantasy relevant undrafted free agents for you. Donovan Edwards out of Michigan signed with the Jets. And you also had Raheem Rocket Sanders head out west to the LA Chargers. So big signing there. Love me some Rocket. But back to round 4, and we're just waiting on Matt 2005 U.S. Air Force Academy here, his calling card. And as you can see on the board, interesting start, because I wasn't expecting Travion Henderson to go at pick 3. But the first 2 were pretty chalk, I think, in most leagues. This is a standard 12-team Superflex tight end premium, start 10 with a 0.5 tight end premium league. So this league's been in existence for, I believe, 3 years now. We're going strong. I myself am the defending champ here in Cannonball, but there's plenty of stiff competition here. And Hergot's in the house. There he is, Mike. How you doing tonight? Any questions out there to start things off? Who's your favorite pick today, Mike? How about that? Lions make any good ones today? Just let me know. All right. Next up, after DK went at the 401 to start things off in the NFL draft, let's share something else here for you guys. There we go. We'll bring up the draft tracker. There it is. So you can see the top of the 4th round started off hot and heavy. We had Bashul scootin' tootin' going to the Jacksonville Jaguars. Love it. Yes. Scootin' tootin', rolling into town with Liam Cohen after they made big news on opening night of the draft, Thursday night, making the big trade up for Travis Hunter at the number 2 pick. They were not done there, adding weapons to the arsenal as they bring in the Combine Warrior, running a 4.32 at the Combine with a top 20 overall RAS score of all time. Bashul Tootin brings his speed down to Jacksonville. We'll see how he scoots his way into the mix there with Travis Etienne and Tank Bigsby. They also added a running back in round 7, so we'll see what that means for the Jaguar running back room. Very interesting things there. After Tootin, we had the one and only Cam Skattebo going to the Big Apple and the Giants there. So This is very interesting for Tyron Tracy and his stock. I was able to get out on him in a couple of leagues. In fact, one of those leagues was this Cannonball League. I got out of him for a second rounder. But yeah, Cam Scattaboo, gotta love him. Gotta think that eventually he'd be the one getting the, I don't know, I don't want to say the boatload of the work, but I would think that Scattaboo would get at least like 55-45, 60-40 with Tracy. Tracy's not chopped liver. I mean, the guy had a good season last year, and we'll see how Scattaboo fits his way in. He's a gamer. I got a feeling that he's going to get some work pretty quickly in the NFL. Nothing too exciting. Another wide receiver late. Yeah, I hear you. Tampa, we grabbed all defense and then saved our last pick for Tez Johnson. So, not too much exciting there either. At least we grabbed him in the 7th round. I remember about 10 years ago we grabbed some little dude out of maybe it wasn't even 10 years ago. We grabbed some little dude out of some smaller school in Texas that was super fast, man. He was awesome on punt returns, but then he got to the NFL and he couldn't even do that. He was fumbling them. And Tez Johnson, if you don't know, wide receiver out of Oregon, had been rated regularly in the top 20 of our rookie rankings, but then he weighed in at the combine at like $155, and that was like, Tank Dell was scary. This guy was 10 pounds at least less than Tank Dell. So I don't know. Tez Johnson, though, he put up big numbers at Oregon. It's not like he can't play. It's just, can he actually take a single hit in the NFL without flying into the stands? So I don't know. He's like our 7th wide receiver, so whatever, I guess. How do I feel about Brian Robinson? Ooh, good question. So Brian Robinson made it through the draft, right? Like Washington did not grab a running back, did they? That'd be a great topic, actually, starting off with Brian Robinson. I don't think that they grabbed a running back. I don't think that the Taj Brooks selection, he survived, right? The Taj Brooks selection to Cincinnati, I don't think hurts Chase Brown, so I'm looking at him as a survivor of the draft. Not that I hate Taj Brooks. He's a decent player, but he's really not going to cut into what Chase Brown was doing last season, and so he's going to be getting a similar workload. I think Brian Robinson gets a similar workload to last season. So if you get late they did, okay, I'd have to look to see who they actually grabbed. If you know, Mike, go ahead and let me know. But I think that Brian Robinson is still going to be 60% of the work there in Washington. Good, solid offense that looks to improve on last season. They weren't clicking on all cylinders all year last year. It wasn't until the second half of the season that they really turned it up and steamrolled their way into the playoffs and through Tampa and Detroit onto the NFC Championship, which they just couldn't contain the Eagles' defense. But that said, Brian Robinson, he's in the final year of his contract now, so he's going to be playing for another contract. He was older when he came out of Alabama to the Commanders, and so, he's got a lot to play for this year. He's a great guy to scoop up in 0 RB or 1 RB in your upcoming redrafts in a few months. Dynasty-wise, Dynasty-wise, I don't know that I'd say he's a sell because the hype isn't there yet. I think it takes a day or two to settle for some videos to start being pumped out about the running back survivors of the draft, right? And Brian Robinson definitely will be one of the top 5 guys that's looked at as a survivor of the draft. Like I said, Chase Brown was one. Tyron Tracy, unfortunately, with Scadaboo being taken here, was not one. Travis Etienne and Tank Bigsby, not survivors, with Bashul Tutin coming to town. Najee Harris, obviously, not survivor. So let's scroll down this draft board in the 4th round. We're just going to be looking at fantasy relevant guys. Dante Thornton to the Las Vegas Raiders. Not high on my board at all. He's really just a guy that can go on the outside and run some 9 routes, clear things up for Brock Bowers and Jacoby Myers over the middle. So he'll be a deep threat. I mean, play action with Ash and Genty should be working, so he'll get a couple touchdowns, but nothing spectacular. Same with Arian Smith going to the Jets. He's just a complimentary piece. I mean, there isn't much there, so in a deeper format, he's somebody that I would possibly pump up a little bit. A great athlete out of Georgia. Then we scroll down here. We get to Travis's brother, Trevor Etienne, rolling into Carolina for an interesting draft pick. Now, knowing the Carolina Panthers, I knew they were going to do something like this. And, it's not terrible. I mean, Jonathan Brooks is out for at least probably he'll start the season on the PUP list. I don't know how much he's going to be able to play after tearing the same ACL again. So I knew who knows how effective he is when he comes back, right? So Trevor Etienne at least has healthy ACLs, and so he will be, at least for what we know now, he'll be Chuba Hubbard's backup, and so he's a little dynamic dude, and not a terrible pick there for the Panthers. After that, Woody Marks to the Houston Texans, an interesting pick from my perspective. I thought they would have gone someone more along the likes of a Damian Martinez or something like that, a guy who can actually play 3 downs to spell Joe Mixon to start with, and as Mixon gets older, Mixon's at the point where he's not going to play 17 games this year, right? So they got to have somebody that can play in his place when he is hurt, and Woody Marks is not that. Woody Marks is really a great receiving back, but that's what he is. Like, he's not an every down back. So interesting pick there. After that, Jarquez Hunter probably would have been a better fit there for the Texans, but the Rams went in and scooped him up. That'll be interesting there in the Rams backfield because he is pretty level, I'd say, with him and Blake Corum as far as talent goes. So we'll see who wins the battle for the RB2 spot there in Los Angeles for the Rams. After that, we got Gunnar Helm out of Texas. Had a bad combine, busted up his ankle out of the blocks in the 40, so really can't count that against him. He still went here in the 4th round to the Titans. Could be a nice little steal because he really has the talent to be up there with the Terrence Fergusons, that second tier, Mason Taylor, Ferguson, Elijah Arroyo, Harold Fannin. He does have the talent to be up there with those guys. So a nice sneaky pick there for the Titans. Then we roll down here and we see another running back, Dylan Sampson, the second rookie running back off the board for the Cleveland Browns. Let me know, what do you guys think that does to Quinshon Judkins' value? I mean, Judkins was I believe he got picked ahead of Travion Henderson, right? So, he was the third running back off the board in this draft, and then now they go ahead and bring Dylan Sampson into town. I mean, that's some stiff rookie competition going on there. Jerome Ford really bit the bullet, and he'd be one of the guys on the list for guys that were definitely penalized from the draft. I know some people were trying to trade for him this offseason because they looked at him as somebody that would survive the draft, because even if they drafted someone, that he would be a good complementary back with them. Well, now, if you're the third guy, I don't know. I don't love it as much. After that, Jalen Lane from Virginia Tech, speedy guy going to the Commanders. So he'll help, fit into that third, fourth wide receiver role, kind of just filling for what, Diami Brown did last season when now he left down to Jacksonville. After that, we roll down to one of my favorite guys, Jalen Royals, going to the Kansas City Chiefs, getting a sexy landing spot there. Alec Iamanair going to the Tennessee Titans. So the Titans not messing around in the fourth round here, grabbing DK, Gunnar Helm, and Alec Iamanair. And then you add in Xavier Restrepo. So they brought in some nice rookie talent for Cam Ward right out the gate, and that gives them a chance to learn and grow together. We'll see how much they put up this rookie season for Cam Ward. Again, they scooped up his college teammate Xavier Restrepo, probably his favorite target all season long, so that may help him as well. And then at the bottom of the draft here, out of Ole Miss, we had Jordan Watkins going to the Niners for some added depth in their wide receiver room. Let's go on to the fifth round. I'd really love if, Matt 2005 U.S. Air Force Academy here would make a selection, because then we could actually do the draft. But, Steve adds in Judkins is still a top 8 pick in Dynasty. Yeah, I agree with that. He is. I comped him to Nick Chubb, ironically, who's now in Cleveland, to replace, basically. And, he's the first and second down back. Dylan Sampson's going to be more the change of pace guy. But I think that both of these guys can have a 3-down skill set. Judkins underrated as a pass catcher because of his last year at Ohio State there, where he had Travion Henderson. So Judkins was getting more of the grinder work, and then Henderson got the sexier play calls. And so Judkins a little bit, some of his metrics got overrated. Cleveland overlooked that. As I said, took him as the third back off the board. And so Cleveland had quite the interesting draft. Like, everybody's crazy about what they did, not crazy about what they did at quarterback. But, I mean, can you blame them? They got Shedeur Sanders in the 5th round. We'll get to that right here coming up. It's super awesome value, but you're bringing that circus to town. Here it is. First offensive player, skill player taken in the 5th round there, 6th pick in the 5th round. Shedeur Sanders. The slide finally ended. So now the Browns are looking at, they've got Joe Flacco, and they traded for Kenny Pickett, gave up just a 6th rounder for him, but still. Then they drafted Dylan Gabriel in the 3rd round, and then grabbed Shedeur Sanders here in the 5th. Now, obviously, they probably weren't expecting Shedeur to fall to the 5th round when they took Dylan Gabriel in the 3rd round. They just liked Dylan Gabriel more. But then you got Shedeur sitting there, and let's be honest, everybody expected him to, not everybody expected him, but most the majority of the community expected him to go in the first round, right? At least by the second round, the beginning of the second, like the top end there. Well, yeah, this is just one of the most catastrophic slides from grace I've ever seen in the NFL draft. And so those the attitude concerns obviously were felt across the league as not nearly everybody, literally every team in the NFL passed on him multiple times. So Shador will bring, the baggage of what everybody's afraid of, and that's Dion shoving his nose into the business of what's going on. And so that's something, if you saw the reaction from Kevin Stefanski and the others in the draft room when they made this pick, they were not happy. We'll just put it that way. That's to say it lightly. All right. After that, we got Jordan James going to the Niners, adding some nice depth to their running back room. It'll be interesting to see between him and Isaac Orendo, who wins that battle out behind Christian McCaffrey. Jaden Blue, then, a surprising pick for me, going to the Cowboys. Didn't seem like the fit I would have thought. For me, again, somebody like Damian Martinez, who was sitting there, Devin Neal, those would have been better picks for the Cowboys. Like, Jaden Blue is, it just reminds me of them when they picked Deuce Vaughn. So, yeah, he's got speed. He's better than Deuce Vaughn. But, again, I would have thought with Javonte Williams there as more of a solid third down back, let's get a grinder in here. Ollie Gordon, maybe? Come on. All right. After that, DJ Giddens. Even Giddens would have been a nicer pick. Giddens going to the Colts, so he gets buried behind Jonathan Taylor. Not a very awesome landing spot there for Giddens. Keandre Lambert-Smith out of Auburn going to the Chargers, who drafted Trey Harris earlier, so Lambert-Smith's just a depth piece there. Blocking tight end out of Notre Dame, Mitchell Evans. Oronde Gadsden, interesting pick here to the Chargers. This is going to be one of those sneakier late-round picks in our rookie drafts that people feel is going to, come up and Chigokwanku their way into people's hearts. It's possible. Oronde Gadsden's dad played in the late 90s for the Dolphins. I remember him. And he had his moments, we'll put it that way. He was never an all-pro or anything like that, but he had a season or two there where he was somewhat fantasy relevant, I guess. And Gadsden brings that to the table. He is a wide receiver listed as a tight end, basically. So the kid can catch. He can catch the ball. I'll say that. Kyle McCord was slinging it to him at Syracuse. He had a couple of just monster games, 9-10 catches for well over 100 yards. So after that, Torrey Horton, some people were high on him, goes to the Seahawks. He's a good player on the outside for them. Would you trade Ashton Genty for BTJ? Yeah, depending on my roster construction, if that helps it, absolutely. I could go either way on that one. It's simply a roster construction type thing, running back or wide receiver, what fits your room better. But yeah, absolutely. I'd have no problem doing that. They're both elite tier players. I'm not worried. Maybe this is part of it. It has to do with Travis Hunter getting drafted to Jacksonville. I'm not worried about that for BTJ at all. No, they're simply, Trevor Lawrence can feed two wide receivers. All right, that's really what all it boils down to. I mean, Liam Cohen's coming over there, and he was in Tampa. Mike Evans and Chris Godwin worked out well. I know that Godwin was getting the majority of the work, comparatively speaking. He had a little higher target share, but that doesn't mean that Travis Hunter is automatically getting a higher target share. He's not exactly Chris Godwin and Brian Thomas Jr. isn't exactly Mike Evans. Now, they're very similar types, but BTJ's got about, what, 8 years on him, 9 years on him. So he's much more spry and athletic than Mike Evans is at this stage of his career. And so, no, if you're going to lower your stance on Brian Thomas at all, I'll buy it. Doesn't I have Amon-Ra and Malik and running back? I only have Brees and Mixon. But yeah, I was worried about how BTJ will do, and Genty is probably going to do amazing. Sure. And keep in mind, Zoom, it is the end of April, okay? We've got 4+ months before you have to set your lineup, okay? So point being, whether you have Ashton Genty or Brian Thomas Jr., you're going to be able to sell both of them. Now, if over the course of the next 4 months, you feel that Ashton Genty's value is going to get pumped up more to where you could flip it, or whether you think you can take Brees Hall or Mixon and flip them for a wide receiver to backfill that, you've got time to play around with it. And if you think, I don't know that you would be getting Genty to then turn around and trade him, so I doubt that. But think about what kind of market you would have for Brees Hall or Mixon. I mean, I don't know what's the format for this league and how many starters you can have. Generally, most leagues are start 2 running backs, 2 or 3 wide receivers, and then a couple flex. So, you know, all these guys here that you're listing are starters. But generally speaking, when I do my roster construction, I try to have it so that, like, my wide receivers are flush through the flex +1 on the bench, and that's it at wide receiver. I don't want to have the Torrey Horton sitting on my bench, okay? Put it that way. That's a wasted roster spot. I'd rather have a backup running back, somebody like Tank Bigsby last year, who, once he got his opportunity from injury, boom, he rose. If Torrey Horton with Seattle, okay, if Cooper Kupp goes down, you know, Torrey Horton isn't getting all the targets from Cooper Kupp. Start 11, 12 team? Okay, gotcha. So how many wide receivers are you at? Like, who else do you have other than Amon-Ra and Neighbors? Start 2 running back, 2 wide receiver, 4 flex. Okay. Yeah, so like who do you have at wide receiver other than Amon-Ra and Neighbors? I'm just looking at it like in that kind of format. I want to have 6 good ones and a 7th, like at least a Jacoby Myers level player as my 7th wideout. I don't want to have too much value pumped into the running back position, right? Because then you get to this stage of their careers and look at where, you know, Brees Hall is at, and he's fallen. Whereas a wide receiver is just hitting his prime right now at that stage, you know, 26, 27 years old. They're just hitting their prime. Running backs are kind of on the way down, and they're definitely looked at as being on the way down in the community. So the trade value isn't as high. And that's what you could see 4 years from now between Genty and Brian Thomas Jr. That's what I'm looking at now. I don't like to play in a 4 or 5 year window. That's too far away. But when you're talking this high end of assets and you're splitting hairs between them, generally speaking, I'm going to pick the wide receiver. Now I get it. You got Brees Hall and Joe Mixon, and Mixon is obviously on his last legs there. You got Pittman, Josh Downs, Mims, Tillman, and Keon Coleman. Okay, so that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Aside from Malik and Amon Ra. Okay. Now, those guys aren't that strong. Obviously, you got two guys there in Indy, which you're kind of stuck with. Keyshawn Butte. Okay, understandable. So I'd be, Denver didn't go out there and grab a high-end wide receiver. They grabbed, Pat Bryant out of Illinois. So that doesn't really hurt Marvin Mims' stock at all. Maybe that's one where I would look to capitalize on. I don't know. It's tough. First of all, I'd try to split up the Josh Downs Pittman thing. That's not a situation where I want to own two wide receivers on a weekly basis that I'm trying to, that I'm putting into my lineup every week. Tillman, definitely somebody I'd try to shop. So if Brees and Mixon are your only running backs, but you've got BTJ, so you've got 3 with BTJ. Pittman, Downs, Mims, Tillman, Coleman, and Butte. You're sitting at 9 wide receivers. Let's try to narrow that down 1 or 2 and package them up for some bodies at running back. And by that I mean the Tank Bigsby's, Travis Etienne. Etienne is probably honestly a good buy low now because everybody's seeing Tootin go in there. Some other guys, I'm trying to think off the top of my head, that aren't terrible buys. I mean, literally, there's probably 30 of them. Like DeAndre Swift survived. Okay, see if you could package a couple of those guys up to go after him. But you don't have to go that high end. Again, people seeing that DeAndre Swift didn't get hurt by the draft, they're probably less likely to sell them. So you might have to just go after the veterans like the Aaron Jones, and that's all right. It's all right to be ugly and old at running back. Again, Brees, if you got a stacked wide receiver room, Brees and Mixon, you could do a hell of a lot worse than those two. I understand the want for Genti. I get that, but we gotta be a little tempered there too. Because I know in one league where I own the 101, now I'm more rebuilding, so that's why I'd want Brian Thomas instead of Ashton Genti. But my other backs are Trey Sermon and Zach Charbonnet. Yes, okay. So you need to fill up that running back room with some bodies, literally just bodies. Hopefully you got a lot of picks, or at least a few draft picks from this draft, and I'd want to see you drafting nothing but running backs. If that is all you've got behind Brees and Mixon, I mean, Trey Sermon doesn't even have a team right now. So you want to be drafting running backs. If you can flip any of your wide receivers into picks, do it. You can get picks in rounds 3 and 4 that will turn right into a nice rookie running back dart throw. That's what you're looking for. All right. Let's go back to this draft here. The real draft, that is. And we are down here. Jackson Hawes blocking tight end out of Georgia Tech. Same for Robbie Outs out of Alabama to the Seahawks. So they double tap tight end in going Elijah Arroyo and a blocking tight end there. All right, on to the 6th round. Today we had, there we go, a couple corners, and then Ollie Gordon finally getting a home, heading to the Miami Dolphins, an interesting landing spot. Didn't expect. It's not where a landing spot I would have expected Ollie Gordon to go to. So that's interesting. And he's a bigger back. I don't know if they're looking to try and lessen the load for Achan near the goal line. Let's hope not for all of our Achan shares. But you never know. It's a sneaky pick in the 5th round by the Dolphins. I don't hate it. And then we've got Kyle McCord going, my guy, to Philly. He could definitely be the backup there. He's a smart kid, loves to sling it, so he's definitely different than Jalen Hurts in that regard. So we'll see how that dynamic works in Philly. Then we had Devin Neal going to the New Orleans Saints. I like Devin Neal a lot. We'll see how that landing spot pans out. I mean, he should get some work. Kamara obviously still there, but he generally gets banged up here and there. And so Devin Neal definitely get his opportunity, but for now, he's really nothing more than a reroll on Kendre Miller. And next up, we had Will Howard going to the Pittsburgh Steelers. Interesting draft for the Steelers. We kind of all thought that they would have gone maybe earlier. We were hoping for like Jackson Dart in the 1st round to the Steelers, maybe Jalen Milroe. The hope was, at least the NFL invited him to the draft for the 1st round. He didn't go there. Milroe went in the 3rd, right? I believe it was, to the Seahawks. But yeah, Will Howard, a solid quarterback, but really to me, a backup quarterback in the NFL. That's what he screams. And so I don't know that he's going to compete for he's going to obviously try, but, and all there is Mason Rudolph there and Skylar Thompson. So who knows? Will Howard could be the best quarterback in the room. That, of course, if we don't get an Aaron Rodgers signing. I was just waiting for Aaron Rodgers to pop out at Lambeau at the draft with his papers signed and just drop him on the stage there in Lambeau, saying that he signed with the Steelers. Anyway, it didn't happen. Khalil Mullings, a little bit of a rough landing spot there in Tennessee with Pollard and Spears ahead of him now. We'll see. That doesn't really entice me. Riley Leonard going to the Colts. Yeah, I wasn't big on Riley Leonard to begin with. That's kind of ugly. Then we have the Taj Brooks pick here in the 6th round. Again, I don't think that eats into any of the load that Chase Brown was carrying last season. So good news for Chase Brown there. Graham Mertz, terrible. Ugh, yuck. If anybody's watched Mertz play, you just, want to close your eyes. So good luck, Houston, with that pick. Gavin Bartholomew out of Pitt going to the Minnesota Vikings, another blocking tight end. LeJonte Wester out of Colorado, one of Shadur's targets, going to the Baltimore Ravens. Another ugly landing spot there. Jimmy Horn Jr. out of Colorado as well, going to the Panthers. He's a smaller possession type receiver. Put up some solid numbers. Can do a lot of kick returning. That's probably what they were really looking at out of him. Tommy Mellott, don't know anything about him. And I doubt he's beating out Geno Smith there in Vegas. Cam Miller, same thing. They went back-to-back here with quarterbacks trying to fill out their quarterback room in Vegas. All right, then on to the 7th round. If we can squeeze this out. You just double check here and see if Matt has made his pick. No, he hasn't. Okay, I hope he is. I know he saw it when I put on the 4-hour clock. So, anywho, let's go take a look here. All right. 7th round. Thomas Fidone out of Nebraska, blocking tight end. Damian Martinez, there's my guy. Going to the Seahawks, of course, Seattle. Now, it's a 7th rounder, so great value on Martinez, in my opinion. But, of course, now he's in the mix with Zach Charbonnet, looking for carries behind Kenneth Walker. So he's not going to beat out Kenneth Walker, but he could beat out Charbonnet for second in touches there, Damian Martinez. Curtis Rourke out of Indiana. He's one on my quarterbacks video earlier this week. I mentioned to somebody you'd probably not want to draft because ideally you're going to be drafting guys who you hope to gain value, right? Now, who out there drafted Jordan Travis last season? You remember Jordan Travis out of FSU? Good senior year, got hurt, and that's why the Seminoles didn't make the college football playoff. Well, Curtis Rourke here got hurt, but it was preseason, tore his ACL, and played through it all year. So the guy is a freaking warrior, right? But now he gets drafted and he's got to heal up on that. And so we don't even know how much he could actually play this season. You know, if my point is Brock Purdy goes down, it's not going to be Curtis Rourke coming in playing. He's going to be sitting on the sideline with his crutches. And that's not going to gain you any value. So point is, if you like Curtis Rourke, wait till next offseason and give up a 4th rounder and grab him next offseason because he's not going to increase on value. Nobody's getting a 3rd for him. Next up, we got Brashard Smith, the running back. Matt English and I talked a lot about this draft season. Very exciting player, was a wide receiver, transitioned to a running back. Good receiving skills, obviously. A little taller than most backs, but think Tyron Tracy from last year, right? This guy ended up going in the 7th round here to the Kansas City Chiefs, so that's always exciting. I expect him to get drafted, partially because of just the landing spot there in Kansas City, but he is a playmaker, and you know, he could easily, he's not as small as Jerick McKinnon, but he could definitely get in there for those red zone opportunities for the Chiefs. They're still sitting on Isaiah Pacheco and Kareem Hunt, and Elijah Mitchell also signed there. So a little interesting mix of a backfield there for the Chiefs. We'll see how that plays out. But Brashard Smith, sneaky pick here in the 7th round by the Chiefs, could again end up being their red zone running back. I could see that for sure. Quinn Ewers then finally going. Yuck to the Miami Dolphins. Kyle Monange from Rutgers going to the Bears. Definitely don't see that as biting into DeAndre Swift's touches. So you've got Monange and Roshan Johnson battling it out for second fiddle there in Chicago. I expect one of them to get usage. You know, DeAndre Swift's never been a guy to get 25 touches a week. He's more of a, you know, Aaron Jones type, 15 to 17 touches a game. Helps keep him healthy, which he's had trouble doing in his career. Then the Bucs taking Tez Johnson. I just wanted to throw up there. LaQuint Allen, I like this back. Similar to Brashard Smith. You know, he's got that one talent receiving, and Jacksonville went after that. So now we've got, you know, as I mentioned earlier, Tootin going there, Trevor Etienne, Tank Bigsby, and now LaQuint Allen, a great receiving back. And so this should be interesting. I wouldn't be shocked if Liam Cohen tries trading both of them, Etienne and Tank Bigsby. And these are his two guys. I don't know. We'll see. Obviously, Dallas is always rumored when they're talking trades for running backs, but I don't know. I don't know how much you can really get for Travis Etienne right now. His stock has fallen so much. So Ricky White out of UNLV, good possession receiver going to the Seahawks. He'd be he's a good injury replacement. I'll say that for Cooper Kupp, if and when he does go down with an injury this year. Phil Maffa, we talked about the Cowboys just a second ago. He's a bigger back, so I like this one. And almost basically, I mean, really, I like him there better than Jaden Blue. So keep that in mind. Caden Prather, don't know much about him out of Maryland. He was the second receiver I know to Ty Felton, who went earlier, I think in the third round to the Vikings. He's a baller, Ty Felton. I like that pick. Caleb Lohner, tight end out of Utah, blocking tight end. Kanata Mumpfield, wide receiver out of Pitt. Do not know about him. Dominic Lovett, good athlete, to the Lions, but again, a 7th-round pick that's really just a depth piece. Ja'Cory Krosky Merritt out of Arizona. Again, this is the guy you were talking about, Hergot. Yeah, this isn't really doing much to hurt Brian Robinson's stock at all. All right. Then near the end here, tight end out of UCLA, another blocking tight end, and Junior Bergen. I don't know about. He must have been out of the CFL because no school is listed, maybe. And then you got Luke Lachey down here, interesting pick to the Texans. He's actually a guy who I like. He got banged up and finally came back from his foot injury, and when he did, he was showing up pretty well there at the end of his career for the Hawkeyes. So he'd be in a much, much deeper league. He's not a bad pick versus all those other blocking tight ends that were rookies there. All right. So there we have it, our rounds 4 through 7 recap. Any questions on any of those picks, who your favorites were, who your least favorites were? I know you can mention anybody in the 7th round because they're kind of useless usually. But anybody in particular you have any questions on right now? Zoom, do you have any more questions on your team in regards to the BTJ Ashton Genty dilemma you've got going there? I'm guessing you're basically looking to possibly offer this right now. And now, if the dude who you'd be offering it to is rebuilding, like he earned the 101, I don't know. I don't know if you have already drafted or not, but obviously we're all assuming Genty's with the 101. There's the other angle too, that if you're acquiring the 101, you don't necessarily have to draft with it. You could go out there and shop it as well and see what you could possibly come up with, because in my opinion, I'd want to be improving that wide receiver room that you have there. Neighbors and Amon-Ra, awesome. Great. Let's get that to 4 or 5 guys that are solid. And I'm not saying you got to get 4 or 5 top 10 wide receivers, but I'd want more. I'd want to get like 2 or 3 more solid, productive players. Get a Chris Godwin in there, get a Terry McLaurin in there. That's what's going to help you actually win the league. Not having a bunch of hopium here in Mims, Tillman, Keon Coleman's. Those guys, they have a lot of ADV. All right, that's artificial dynasty value. They've looked good from time to time, right? But are they anybody you can plug into unless this is best ball, they're not anybody you can plug into your lineup on a weekly basis and count on them. And quite honestly, neither Pittman or Josh Downs are either, because they're with the Colts. So that's where I'm getting at. You need to cash out on that ADV on those guys before they become nothing. And that's where Cedric Tillman, And I don't think Keon Coleman's going to become nothing, but Keon Coleman is on the verge right here of turning into the next Rashad Bateman, okay? So that's where he's at, right? Keon Coleman is much closer to Rashad Bateman than he is to Brian Thomas, okay? Or to Mike Evans, whatever you want to look at as a big-bodied outside playmaker type receiver. He's not somebody I'm buying right now in Dynasty as somebody that I can count on. Like Scattaboo to the Giants and Blue to the Cowboys. So you like Jaden Blue to the Cowboys, huh? Yeah, like I said, I think Maffa from the 7th round is actually the bigger body guy that they could use on first and second down. Jaden Blue, I guess, could be sneaky, and maybe he will be big enough. I'm not an NFL scout. Last year I was dead wrong on my own guy, Bucky Irving. Okay, so thankful. But yeah, Jaden Blue could pay out. Jerry Jones, like I predicted, did not take a running back in the early rounds, like he'd been saying for a couple of years now. He just doesn't value the running back position, and the NFL as a whole didn't. I mean, this was an awesome running back class, right? But with the way the pay scales are set up, it just makes more sense for NFL teams to wait on the running backs. They pay every round you go down, they pay them less. So, sorry, dude, got caught up in some family stuff, but someone came to me with the offer thinking of hitting him with. Gotcha. Not liking Ollie Gordon to Miami. Ooh, yes, that's one I mentioned. I thought that was just an interesting pick that threw me off. Like Ollie Gordon, I was thinking personally he was going to be somebody that one of the teams that loves the running back position, right? As the Dolphins do, as do the Niners do, but he didn't seem like that kind of fit. He seemed more like Baltimore, Seattle type to me, because he really reminds me of Zach Charbonnet. He could at least have been a backup for Derrick Henry if he goes down for a couple of weeks. What we got here? Okay, so Zoom, here's your deal. He gives me BTJ and Jacobs, and I give him Genty and one of my bottom wide receivers. Ooh. Okay, so now I'm liking that more for you, Zoom. Definitely. Because for me, BTJ and Genty are boom, right there, even. And if you're getting Jacobs for one of those bottom wide receivers, you're getting out on one of those guys, absolutely. Whether it's Keon Coleman, Marvin Mims, I'd say do that. Now, I don't know that Jacobs is going to play 16, 17 games again, right? But here's the key. Like I said, you've got 4 whole months to make some moves. And this would be perfect for you because then you'd have Jacobs, Breece Hall, and who is your other guy? Mixon, right? Any of those 3 running backs, you should be able to flip into a better veteran point scoring wide receiver for you. Like I mentioned, Chris Godwin, Terry McLaurin, those types. Get yourself some more points on that roster in your wide receiver room, and you'll be feeling a lot better about yourself setting those lineups come Sundays in September. All right? So that's a flip I like. If that's the offer, BTJ and Jacobs for Genty and Keon Coleman or Marvin Mims, I'd say go for it. Yes. You were thinking Steelers for Ollie Gordon? Absolutely, yeah. But, they landed Caleb Johnson, so Ollie Gordon would have been backup for him. First guy live to try to get more in depth with my question. Hope you blow up, brother. Just got yourself another subscriber. You see me more in here, man. All right. Thank you, Zoom. It's awesome of you. I appreciate the support. It's what we need in the birdhouse. And as Zoom just did, if you haven't already, click the like and subscribe. I know some of you are in the league that we're trying to get rolling with the draft board here, but it's all good. He USF he took Cam Ward. Oh, well, Hergot, it's on you. I don't know if you're still watching or not. It is only Saturday night. I know you don't have to work tomorrow. Well, that's great. Thank you, Matt, for making the pick. It's awesome. All right. Hergot, where are you at? It is a little late. I know Hergot is Eastern Standard Time, the Detroit area. I don't know if he's tried any trade offers yet. Here we go. I'm just letting Hergot know. Nah, just seeing if he wants to trade it to me. All right. So, Jason, yes, you make that trade. You're getting so much more value. Yep. There you go. Would you all trade Jaden for Caleb plus Marv? Oof. Yes. That's a tough one, but the value there is great. You're getting two. So you're trading off an elite asset, one of the top 5 guys. For me, Steve, I thought you were talking about Zoom. But Jason, I'd just be careful if you didn't mention what format it is. I'm guessing it's a standard kind of 12-team Superflex, start 10 or 11. The only thing is, depending on your roster construction, whether you need to gain more starters or not. Like if you're already an elite team, that's not necessarily something you need to do. Then you're looking to get those elite assets. So that's the only thing I'd warn you about. But yeah, if you're more on the rebuilding side, like if you finished in the bottom half of your league last year, that's a decent bet to make. Caleb Williams will likely improve from last year. Marvin Harrison, likely improve from last year. I mean, literally all it's going to take from Marv is one good week 1, and boom, people are going to be in love with him again. So, would you trade Genty for Kyron Williams and a future first if you're rebuilding? No, not Kyron Williams. Not what I'm looking for. Definitely not. I want something. I want either a wide receiver or picks if you're rebuilding. So, Genty, I want 2 firsts plus something. I mean that first that you're getting better be like a guaranteed bottom 5 pick. I don't want somebody's playoff first. All right, that's not getting me an elite player. All right, look at what happened in this year's draft. Right now we've got a good, decent tier, whatever you want to say, the top 8, top 10-ish. But then after that, I mean, were there a whole lot of exciting landing spots, really, this draft? I don't know. A couple. But is it something you're willing to get off of Ash and Genty for? No. Here's the thing, Brandon. If you don't get the all right offer, don't feel afraid to just click that select button on Genty. He's going to be worth something come June, come July, come August. And then once he starts performing in September, he's still going to be worth something, right? Think about Bijan. Bijan didn't have that great of a rookie season, right? It was solid. He did perform, but it wasn't that great, right? Arthur Smith killed him by having Tyler Algier get all those touches, and he still was worth something, right? And now Bijan's still a 1-2 turn startup pick. Ashton Genty will retain value, okay? And there's no denying the fact that this dude's going to get 300 plus touches this first season because all he's got behind him is Raheem Mostert and Sincere McCormick. So don't be afraid to click on draft for Genty, even if you're rebuilding. Put it that way. Because what's going to happen is you're rebuilding and you get all these other picks, and you're going to end up at some point just wanting to flip those picks back into Ashton Genty. But it's all right if you've got Genty already. It's not impossible. I don't love doing it, but it's not impossible to build around a running back in Dynasty. Okay, so that's my 2 cents on it, Jason. Yeah. Even if you're rebuilding, you don't have to trade away Genty. Definitely don't fall for a Kyren Williams in future first. Because Kyren Williams is not somebody, I know he's looked good the last year or two, but I'm not buying into it. I wouldn't be shocked if he goes down this year and it's Blake Corum or the newly acquired Jaquez Hunter that leads the team in rushing. So maybe I'm too low on Kyren Williams, and that's fine. But try and get a wide receiver and a good future first if you're going to trade Genty. Like, I'm talking, you need to get, I'm not saying Devonta Smith, all right? You need to get better than that. I'm trying to think here. I mean, if you're truly rebuilding and you're looking to tank so you get the number 1 pick again, what do you got here? For sure, got number 1 pick in multiple leagues. Who's going to try some different things? Yeah, no, I get that. Definitely try to do that. If you've got it in multiple leagues, there's nothing wrong with owning Genty in as many leagues as possible. But yeah, if you want to diversify, for sure, I totally understand diversification in a portfolio type Dynasty atmosphere. So I just don't love Kyren Williams. That's all. If you can't tell. All right. So Hergot, maybe he went to bed. I don't know. Let's see here. Let's bring up the draft board for y'all now that Cam Ward got selected. And we're waiting on Hergot. All right, there we are. So Cam Ward, there he is. He went at the 104. So we had 3 running backs to start things off with. A little surprised, but not actually. This running back class is awesome. All right. Travion Henderson, Caleb Johnson, Quinshon Judkins, they all got good landing spots. And again, Judkins, I'm not that worried about Dylan Sampson. So, if you have conviction on Henderson, Caleb Johnson, or Judkins, I don't have a problem with you taking them over Cam Ward. Cam Ward to me is a middle of the road running back, middle of the road quarterback, and I don't see him having elite ability in fantasy, right? He could be a good NFL quarterback. I don't doubt that. I've comped him kind of to Steve McNair, old Titans quarterback. But I don't see the elite fantasy production because he doesn't have that elite rushing ability, right? In order to break into that top 5, unless you're slinging it like Joe Burrow, which, yes, the Titans have brought in some decent receivers, but they didn't bring in Jamar Chase, and they certainly don't have T. Higgins there. So, I mean, they've got Calvin Ridley and a bunch of rookies right now, right? DK, Alec Manor, and Xavier Restrepo. And so, and Tyler Lockett, sorry. But you get my point. Like, they can grow together, they can learn together, but they're going to have some wounds this first season, and so Cam Ward is far from what Joe Burrow was coming into the NFL. That's all I'm going to say there. All right. Man, really wish we'd get a pick here from Hergot. I don't know if he wants me to send over an offer. I'll send him an offer. Let me get this rolling here. Come on. Anybody else got any other questions about some draft picks? Maybe some murky situations with the running backs? I mean, it's obvious and it was apparent that it was going to happen. Maybe some running backs you're worried about, not so worried about. Hergot earlier, he brought up Ryan Robinson. I'm not so worried about. Again, they didn't pick a running back till the 7th round. I'm going to try offering our boy Hergot a deal here. Let's do this. Who I got here? I had a deal put together, and now I'm leaning another route. Okay. Yeah, we're going to do that offer. All right. Let me put it in here, and we'll get back. Any other questions on the late round running backs in particular? Didn't love many of the late round wide receivers. That the receiver class, once we got past the 3rd, maybe a couple in the 4th round, I don't mind. But yeah, it's pretty bleak there at wide receiver. Now, if you're talking best ball, you want to dive into those wide receivers. That's something I can get behind. All right, Hergot, there you go. Jump in and jump all over that offer I just sent you. All right. What do you think of the Ibuka pick for the Bucks? Oh, for the Bucks or fantasy-wise? Love it for the Bucks because we were able to scoop up some defensive players earlier on. My initial reaction was disappointment, honestly. I wanted us... Now, when I saw who got the guy, I was pissed because the Eagles, of course, ended up with Jihad Campbell from Alabama. That's the player that I specifically, going into this draft, he was... Yeah, I'll do both. So I wanted Jihad Campbell, the linebacker from Alabama that the Eagles grabbed, because we needed help on the defensive side of the ball. I figured that the Chris Godwin signing made it seem very likely that he was going to be fully healthy going into the season, and by signing him and not letting him go, we wouldn't have to draft a wide receiver early. Because then we're sitting on Evans, Godwin, and Jalen McMillan, right? McMillan looked sharp at the end of last season during the time that Godwin was out. So I was pretty set with that room, right? Now, obviously, the Bucks want to keep Baker happy, and they want him to continue to succeed at the level that he's been the last couple of seasons. So that said, Mike Evans is obviously getting older. Same with Godwin. Evans is 31 now. Godwin 29. Okay. And as we saw last season, those injuries really caught up with us. Evans was out for 4 weeks. Godwin missed this whole second half of the season, and it really, like, we had Kansas City right there. We went into overtime with them. That was without both Evans and Godwin. So like we're right there. But for me, the defense was the side that needed to be addressed more so, and we did that in the with our second and third round picks. We grabbed two nice corners, Ben Morrison out of Notre Dame and the Parrish out of Kentucky. We went linebacker. Then in the fourth round, an edge rusher out of Central Arkansas. He had the highest PFF grade. So we ended up, Jason Licht worked his magic. We got Ibuka so we can still have elite level play at the wide receiver position. Look, if you followed Ibuka at all, you know that he's used to playing in a crowded wide receiver room. The dude played at Ohio State with Marvin Harrison, JSN, Jeremiah Smith this last season. So he has no problem working amongst other elite level wide receivers and finding his way, right? And he's a great kid. Everything that I've seen about him on Twitter, blah, 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 and everything that all the other GMs said about him this draft season made him somebody that I really liked. And this is dynasty-wise. So I still have him as my wide receiver 3 in this draft because there was nobody else after him that got a landing spot that makes me want to just drool over. So, yes, Ibuka is a long play now. He's not going to blow up rookie season, right? He didn't go to the Cowboys to be their number 2. He didn't go to the Bills. He didn't go to, a sexier landing spot where he would have been the number 2 possibly right out of the gate, or even the number 1, right? But the fact is the dude is a solid ball player, and he's somebody that I think the players around him will like. He seems like he's a pro already, is my point. And I had to Chris Godwin, ironically, all off season, and look what we got. Sorry, just jumped in here. Kenneth, is there a tight end premium in this league? Yes. I'm assuming 1 PPR overall. Yeah, it's a half-point tight end premium. Yes. And we are waiting on Hergot. He had been in here. I actually texted him because I have his number, and he hasn't responded, so I'm almost guessing that he went back to bed. I even sent him a trade offer, so we'll see. Hergot loves to deal, so yes, Kenneth, there is just a half-point tight end premium, though. No 0.75 or full point type deal here. It's a 12-team start 10 league with the half-point premium. Yeah. So that said, Kenneth, where do you like Tyler Warren and Colston Loveland? That's a topic that kind of has gone under the radar a little. I know people, generally speaking, were higher on Tyler Warren than Colston Loveland, pretty much based off of the fact that he put up monster stats this last season. And Colston Loveland, with the Michigan offense, didn't. And so just curious there what anybody's thoughts are. I would put Loveland ahead of Warren now, I'll say, though neither got a smash landing spot. Loveland, yes, he's the first draft pick of new head coach Ben Johnson, who obviously will try and mold him into his Sam Laporta there. But, with Cole Kmet there, and I just, it's hard to tell the story of Colston Loveland being the tight end 1 overall. Now, could he be a top 10 tight end? Sure. The kid has a lot of talent. Like, he stepped up big in the big games for Michigan. He made a lot of first down catches. And the kid can obviously play. And he's a year or two younger than Warren as well. So he had that going for him. So I don't blame Ben Johnson for picking him over Tyler Warren. Uh, he obviously did his work on him and went ahead and grabbed Loveland. But Warren then, of course, gets the crap landing spot that we were all hoping he'd avoid in Indy. Now, Indy last year had one of the lowest rates of throwing to the tight end. They threw 11% of their 11% target share to the tight ends. That's not to their top tight end. That's overall. They didn't even have 100 pass attempts to tight ends last season. Not even 100. Now, granted, with Anthony Richardson throwing the ball half the season, that meant that they didn't have a lot of pass attempts overall to begin with, and then you have even a low of an end of target share, like it just doesn't look great. Now, if Daniel Jones gets in, he did have a 19% target share his last season with Evan Ingram, so that's something to look at, right? When he had a decent tight end, he did throw him the ball, right? And Tyler Warren's a creative guy in the aspect that he can go into the backfield. He can move around on the offense. They could do jet sweeps or something to him, right? But as far as buying into Tyler Warren, the first-round pick, especially in just a half-point tight end premium like this league, it's hard for me to buy in. Is Shook a round 2 pick in Superflex? Okay. Well, it depends on your risk tolerance, I guess, because Shook is going to get to play at some point in the season, right? Jalen Milroe, is he going to? I don't know. I don't know that he's going to get a start, put it that way. Darnold would have to get hurt. Milroe, interesting enough, the offensive coordinator is a dude that came from New Orleans, Shanahan's little brother, right? And he could easily put Jalen Milroe into a Taysom Hill type role. So I think that's who Shook really is battling now if you're debating on picking a quarterback in the second round. And then, of course, you've got Shedeur Sanders thrown into the mix. And I don't know what the hell to think of that. 5th rounder was considered by most to be the second best quarterback for almost all the draft season. And now he goes in the 5th round behind just some garbage quarterbacks. I don't know. I mean, Derek Carr, they say his arm is bad. Well, what does that mean? Is he going to get shut down for the season and they're just going to eat that contract and throw Tyler Shook or Spencer Rattler to the Wolves? I don't know. I guess if you're drafting Tyler Shook in the second round, first of all, it should be late second. And, I don't love the wide receiver hit rates once you get to the back half of the second round. So sure, if you want to take a shot on Tyler Shook, go ahead. I don't have a problem with it. I'm sure I'll end up with a few Tyler Shook. I don't know that I'm taking him in the back half of the second in this draft, but he's not a terrible stab in the dark. He's got a path. You can tell yourself a story that Tyler Shook is the New Orleans Saints quarterback heading into the then 2026 season, because that's really what they're throwing darts at right now. I mean, they obviously did some homework and liked him enough to pass on Shedeur Sanders multiple times, right? They liked him more than Jalen Milroe, okay? So that's what they told the world by picking Tyler Shook. If Shedeur's arm strength is bad, Browns are not a great spot. Outdoor stadium with extremely bad weather is a playoff. Yeah, right. I agree. But he was throwing in Boulder for the last couple of years, too. That's not exactly a warm weather place either. I'm just playing your devil's advocate to what you said. Shedeur is somebody basically that's going to slide down our rookie draft boards way down, at least like a round past where he had been going in the back end of the first, even early second in some drafts, some mocks that we were doing because of the social media, the message that we had heard from multiple sources that he was a terrible interview. And what can I say? I don't hate the kid personally. I don't know him. But to act like you've already got this title, I mean, look at the green room that he put together, blah, blah, blah. Hopefully, getting drafted in the 5th round will humble him and not make him just talk and say, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, I'm going to prove you all wrong. Don't tell me that. Go out and do it. That's why Jackson Dart got picked in the 1st round and you didn't. Because Jackson Dart went out there and did it. He showed up at the Senior Bowl. He showed up at the Combine. And he showed people. I haven't heard Jackson Dart say anything, right? I haven't seen him talk at all. All I've seen from Shedeur Sanders is him trying to get Cam Ward to do some rap at the Combine when he was there. And Cam Ward just laughed him off and walked away. And that's exactly the point. Cam Ward told him, I'm here to play football, and walked away. Like, that's exactly the whole point of this, and why Shedeur Sanders went in the 5th round, and Cam Ward was the number 1 overall pick. Shedeur Sanders is out there trying to just show off and have fun. Like, that's not what an NFL franchise wants as their leader of their franchise. So, wasn't surprised he didn't go in the 1st. I can't say that I expected him to fall to the 5th round. That'd be I'd be lying. All right. But I think everybody would be lying if they said that they thought he was going to get picked in the 5th round. So, again, it's a quarterback position. It's super flex. It's important. So, take your stabs at guys. Am I taking Shook or Sanders? It's a good question. Right now, I'd probably lean Tyler Shook. So, he's got a lot less bodies to fight through. Let's go down the road of Derek Carr not playing this year, right? You got Tyler Shook, who's actually older than Spencer Rattler, who played, 8 years in college. I like Tyler Shook. Harvey or Caleb Johnson? Whew, it's a tough one. I'm gonna go with my pre-draft analysis and lean Caleb Johnson here. I mean, Pittsburgh's a smash landing spot for him. That's too awesome to ignore. I'm gonna lean Caleb Johnson there. Caleb Johnson is built like a house. He's a type of dude that gets better as the game goes on. He's very patient. He picks his holes, and boom, he's there. If you watch some highlight reels of him, you're going to see a lot of openings, and you're going to think, wow, is this just his offensive line? No, it's not just his offensive line. The guy's got good vision. He knew when to hit the hole and the timing of it. Now, RJ Harvey, very versatile back. He fits the Sean Payton system perfectly. RJ Harvey just screamed up the boards in our rookie drafts by being taken by Denver as one of the first 6 running backs taken in this NFL draft. And so Harvey is exciting for me. I'm going to slightly lean Caleb Johnson here, but if you got to settle on RJ Harvey, don't feel bad. All right. That's my take on that for you, because Audric Estime and Jaleel McLaughlin, man, I mean, they're going to get touches because Sean Payton will spread it around for his running backs. I mean, even Alvin Kamara had to share the touches all the time in New Orleans. They just had a lot of touches for the running backs. I mean, for years he was with Mark Ingram, and that was just a awesome 1-2 punch. And so Harvey is still going to split touches with Estime and McLaughlin, but he's going to be the dog there. He's going to be the lead man. All right. So one thing that he'll have to improve on is the ball security, but guys can work on that. And so I'm not gonna not draft a guy at all because he fumbles. Okay, it's just like the hands thing for wide receivers. Guys can get better with their hands. Packer fans, hell, out there. What was Devontae Adams doing his first 2 seasons in the NFL, right? So, ball security can be an issue. We'll learn pretty quickly whether Harvey's got that down or not. But yeah, so yes, I slightly lean Caleb Johnson to answer the question directly. But I don't hate Harvey. I think the main question is, where do you see Jackson Dart, Ibuka, Harvey, and Caleb Johnson right now? Because I think everybody's got Judkins ahead of them in that little tier, so to speak, of players. How do you rank Dart, Ibuka, Harvey, and Caleb Johnson? That's the question everybody's going to be asking. And I mean, sometimes it takes care of itself. If you're picking at 11 and you're fine with any of those guys, then you just wait. But if you really need the running back and you want one of these 2 dudes, you might have to move up. If you're picking at 8 or 9, then you're just going to have to go with your gut. If you want to take Harvey over Caleb Johnson because of the receiving ability, and you think that makes his ceiling higher than Caleb Johnson, fine. I like Caleb Johnson's ceiling better because he's going to pound the rock. He's going to have the Najee Harris type role. He's simply replacing Najee Harris in the Pittsburgh offense, right? I'd feel a hell of a lot better if Aaron Rodgers is there, but we'll see. Do you feel like we're writing some of these vet running backs off too quickly when teams only invested third-day draft capital in running back? Example, Devontae. Well, let's look at the money there for one. Javonte Williams only signed, a $3 million deal? So Dallas didn't exactly invest a whole lot into them. Now Jaden Blue, again, I'm not a big fan of the pick. So Javonte, in his case, I think will get some decent touches in Dallas until they realize that he's not really that good. And then they're forced to go to Jaden Blue. But that could be just another ugly year at running back. Now, they did grab some linemen this year. They decided to do the smart thing, so to speak, and grab linemen at pick 12. So that could help things out. I mean, they just lost one of their top linemen in their history who retired. Now I can't think of his name, but yeah. Javonte Williams, Aaron Jones re-signed in Minnesota. Minnesota didn't draft anybody. Yes, I know they traded for Jordan Mason, who's all right, but Aaron Jones is still going to be the top fantasy guy there. Joe Mixon. Mixon did not get really any competition. Woody Marks, same with Jaden Blue. No, I'm not personally. Those 2 guys, I don't see. They were odd picks for me. I would have thought, again, Damian Martinez, Devin Neal, Ollie Gordon, Rocket Sanders. I would have thought those were better fits for what Dallas and even Houston needed. Instead, they did lean towards the veteran running backs. And so I'm one that I like to read into what the team is telling me. If the team is saying this and then they act on it, like, that's the route they're going. Just like Jerry Jones said, he doesn't invest a lot into the running back position. He hasn't, okay? It's literally they have Javonte Williams, Miles Sanders, and a fourth and a seventh round pick at running back. Like that portion of their salary cap is what, $10 million for the season. So that's like less than 5% of their team's salary cap. Just seems the NFL didn't value the running backs overall the way we did. So many of these teams needed to address running back and didn't, or didn't until it was the fifth round or later. Okay, so the reason for that is partially due to the salary structures, right? The earlier you draft somebody, the more you have to pay them. The NFL teams all knew that this was a good running back class. They all knew that there would be a couple of good running backs, really good running backs, that were even undrafted free agents, such as Rocket Sanders going to the Chargers, such as Donovan Edwards going to the Jets, right? So that's why it's a money thing, and everybody decided to let them fall. Now we got to day the guy that they knew they wanted because they were worried they weren't going to be there for them in the fifth. That's why we had a little mini run there of what, five or six running backs taken in the fourth round. But after that, there were still plenty of guys out there. Like Devin Neal is one of my favorite guys just because he can do everything decent but nothing great. And so I think he fits into literally any backfield in the NFL. And so I forget who grabbed Devin Neal. What was it, the fifth round? I can just look on here. Devin Neal. Where did he... Oh, jeez. Saints, that's right. Okay, so the Saints didn't have to pay much, and they got themselves a very quality backup now for Kamara, and one who won't be, the way the Saints run things, won't be just a backup. I mean, Kellen Moore, yes, he's coming from Philly, where he had Saquon Barkley. Alvin Kamara isn't in the same shape that Saquon Barkley was going into last season. So, yeah, that's where I'm getting at, is they let the guys fall because they knew there was tons of just quantity of bodies there, and they didn't care who they got. So yes, heading into this season, some of the veterans, such as Joe Mixon and Aaron Jones and DeAndre Swift, they did not lose value. Brian Robinson, they're basically the same as they were last year. Now, when you look at it analytically, you have to remember last year was a historical season for running backs health-wise. Do you think that will repeat again? Probably not. Okay, so keep in mind that you can expect more games missed from running backs this year. And so that's where the depth will come into play. That's where I'm trying to roster construct around. And so that's where I'm at with the running back landscape right now. Yes, I traded out on Brian Robinson in 2 leagues. I got out on him. Am I hating myself now? No, because the leagues that I traded him in, he was not a starter on my team, so it's not really hurting my starting lineup. And now I can kind of just, re-roll with a running back from the second round in this draft, which I'm totally fine doing. So I'm just starting the clock over, really. Instead of having a fourth year running back, now I have a rookie running back. Okay. So that's how I'm playing that within my own rosters. Okay. So that's one way to look at it. I wanted to capitalize on last year's historical seasons from running backs, capitalize on that value before they bounce back to reality. Somebody like Josh Jacobs, right? Now, I know I told, what was it, Jason or Kevin earlier, to go ahead and do that trade with Brian Thomas and Josh Jacobs. That's a value thing, right? He's got 4 months before Josh Jacobs hits the field. He could trade out of Josh Jacobs. He could flip him for a wide receiver very easily. Get like a Jerry Jeudy plus something, right? That's the way you work it. Work that angle with the running backs that did perform well last season. Flip them into a wide receiver, a position that historically has played more games on average. All right, just don't get sucked in too far on your running backs, your veteran running backs that did have good seasons last season. All right. Any other questions out there? I don't know that Hergot's going to get in here. He hasn't replied. I'm guessing he went to sleep, and that's a shame. But it leaves more for tomorrow evening and Monday when we run down this draft, how it went. So I appreciate all the chat tonight. It's been a fun night so far. Any other questions from the chat for you? I love the discussion on the rookie quarterbacks. The thought with Tyler Shook and Shedeur Sanders. You've got Jalen Milroe in that mix as well there when it comes time to start drafting. The key to think about is starts. That's how they get their points, right? And Tyler Shook right now has the most direct path to getting onto the field. And that's how they're going to actually increase in value, okay? Jalen Milroe will probably hold a little bit of the ADV just because, sort of like Jalen Hurts, he had that going for him his rookie season. Now, Hurts didn't get in until the last month, but when he did get in, he blew up. Michael Penix last year, when he did get in, he played well, increased his stock. Those of you who grabbed Michael Penix in the middle of the second round last year, you know what I'm talking about. Okay, so that's where Jalen Milroe, it's not quite the same situation that Hurts was in, because Milroe's got Sam Darnold ahead of him, who's signed he signed a 3-year deal, but Seattle can get out after year 2. So he could play like ass this year, Milroe take over, and then they just kind of eat it next year. It's a possibility, right? Because if Milroe comes in and is throwing it all right and leading the team to wins and showing off those wheels, like, it's a bonus for both fantasy and the Seahawks. So there's a path there for Milroe, but the most direct path is Tyler Shook. Shedeur, I mean, he's got Flacco, Pickett, and Dylan Gabriel to outplay. So I think he can outplay Kenny Pickett, but when you got an old veteran like Flacco, who's still slinging it well, and you got somebody like Myles Garrett who wants to win now, right, in that division, one of the toughest in football, absolutely, it's Flacco is probably the best bet to start week 1, in my opinion, right now. So Dylan Gabriel, don't count him out either. Like, he is not going to go down without a fight. I know he's not the ideal size of an NFL quarterback, but neither was Russell Wilson, right? So I'm just saying, don't totally write off Dylan Gabriel. That's all. Obviously, his value has dropped, and yes, I would draft Shedeur Sanders in fantasy over Dylan Gabriel, but again, don't write him off, and keep that in mind when you're drafting, hitting that button on Shedeur Sanders. Okay? So, all right. If we don't have any more questions, I think that's where we're going to end it for tonight. It's been a ton of fun. Had lots of questions in the chat. Love the discussion. Loved you guys just reaching out and trying to get my opinion, some of the others' opinions. That Jaden Daniels for Marvin Harrison and Caleb Williams question was a very good one, very tough one to dissect. Again, without getting the actual roster from you. But I totally see why Steve said, yeah, you go after those two. Because who knows if Jaden Daniels is actually going to step his game up from what he was doing at the end of last season. I mean, he was playing amazing, out of his mind. And that's where he rose up to Dynasty QB 1 at some points this offseason, right? He's right in the mix, though, with Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, and Jalen Hurts. Right now, he's younger than those guys, so he's got that going for him. But he's got to show it again. And I'm not saying he can't, but you also got Caleb Williams with a likely improvement this year, as with Marvin Harrison as well. So that's a tough one. I'd like to see the roster before I make my final call on that. But yeah, if you had to ask me, just cookie cutter 12-team Superflex, start 10, half-point tight end premium, I would, all things being equal, probably lean slightly the Caleb Williams, Marvin Harrison side. Yes. Now, I don't know if there are other pieces added into that deal or what, but yeah, just need a little bit more context to fully answer the question. That's all. All right. But with that, love you guys. Thank you for joining tonight. NFL Draft Weekend. It's been fun. We'll see you again soon. And with that, I want to remind you all to make sure you never stop working.